In explaining Amida Buddha's great aspiration for all beings, Shinran Shonin explains the following. Amida's aspiration is like the right path, for it leads the multitudes of beings into the capital of wisdom. Namo Amida Butsu. 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 Great. Thank you very much. Well, good morning, everyone. So I'm kind of going to shift gears here for the adult one, and I don't mean to be a Debbie the Downer, but there's some kind of many things that are happening in the news recently, and I think that I wanted to kind of address some of those things and kind of share some of my thoughts on that. So just on a personal note, let's see, my brother's dog has two dogs, and one of them, Hana-chan, passed away, and she I guess she ate something bad, like some kind of bush or something like that, and so she ended up dying, and it was very kind of sudden. And I just remember seeing the dog the other day, and the dog kind of dying suddenly, and then not only that, but with the Kaikyoshi ministers, the BCA has made a few announcements regarding one, Reverend Inoue, longtime minister over at, I believe it's Parlier, and in the Central Cal area, nonetheless, but he has passed away. Let's see, another person is Reverend Watanabe, who was in the Oxnard Temple, who succumbed to pancreatic cancer that kind of came back. And then a longtime IBS kind of advocate who worked closely with Moka Sensei, Jack Fujimoto, has also passed away. And so this happened all within a time span of a few days, right? And then not to mention, we have on a societal level, the school shootings that happened at the Oxford School. And then, what was really sad to see was kind of the children in the classrooms who kind of knew what to do and the drill, right? On one sense, it's good that they know how to keep safe, but in the other sense, it's come to this point where we have to take time out of school schedule to do drills in terms of what to do with an active shooter. And so these kids, in a certain respect, are desensitized, I think, to the violence that they kind of expect to see. And so, I think this issue of guns is, in my opinion, is not a political one whatsoever. The guns is the problem. The guns is the problem. And we need to figure out how to manage this situation, because I think we've gone crazy, quite frankly, because we would rather prize our guns over our children, over the children of this country, right? And the safety of our children. This is unthinkable in terms of all the other, countries to have these school shootings, and let alone a first world country, a developed nation that, has this problem, is just, is really kind of mind boggling, in my opinion. And then we have these news in the Bay Area about these smash and grab, and people just have kind of just no kind of respect for this society and its laws, and just people stealing from each other just kind of brazenly is also very kind of I don't know what the word is, but just kind of daunting, I think. And also the new COVID strain, as we all know, and the climate change situation worsening here in California. So there's all these kind of negative things that are happening in the news. I don't know if it's my YouTube feed or if I just flip it on the wrong time of the day, but it's like all these news, just one after another. And at one point in the week, I was feeling really kind of down, and just thinking like, is there ever any kind of good news, or is there any kind of respite, kind of a relax, a time where we could just kind of have one day where nothing kind of bad goes on. And I don't think that that's possible, and it's very kind of sad to see that. I don't want to worry you. I am doing okay. It's just that, when you see all these things on the news, it's very depressing, I think, in certain respects. Shinran Shonin is said to have stated, in Japanese, he says this following words: Yorozu no koto, minamotte soragoto tawagoto makoto aru koto naki ni. Tada nebutsu no mizo makoto ni te owashimasu, right? Which means all matters without exception are empty and false, totally without truth and sincerity. The Nembutsu alone is true and real. And this comes up in his book called the Tanisho, which one of his students writes about him and his lectures and his teachings that he gave. Tanisho is a very famous text. It's known throughout Japan. It comes up actually in their public education system. And so everybody has more or less a general understanding of or some kind of experience with the Tanisho. So I believe this is very true. It's absolutely the case that all things are quote unquote empty and false, right? Which might sound at first glance very harsh to the average person, right? Everything is empty and false. What about things like love and children's laughter and these kinds of things, right? But what Shinran means is that everything is in flux and everything is constantly, constantly changing. And so we fail to recognize that all things are always changing. We don't want things to change, right? And so that's why we suffer, because we fail to grasp this understanding. So Shinran then explains that the Nembutsu is the only thing that remains constant. It's the only thing that is true and real. That is to say that only the world of Amida Buddha's great compassion, wisdom and compassion brought to us by the Onembutsu is true and real. And this is what we should use as our anchor in this life of uncertainty. In Buddhism, we often use the phrase impermanence. And, in Japanese, this is mujo. But actually, if we look at Shinran Shonin's works, he hardly ever uses this phrase, mujo, right? Why is that? Mujo, why doesn't he use the phrase impermanence? That's the basic Buddhist tenet. But the understanding is that Shinran Shonin doesn't use this word because this is the truth of the Buddha Dharma, and he felt that it was not his place to tell other people that they should understand impermanence. So it goes to show this humility of Shinran Shonin, right? That he felt that the only thing that could tell other people about this truth of impermanence is the Buddha or the Buddha Dharma itself. It's not his place to tell other people, it's impermanent. So either get with the program or you're going to suffer, kind of thing, right? So he's coming down on this very humble perspective on this, and this is why he doesn't use the word impermanence that much. But more importantly, I think what this also shows is Shinran Shonin's humanity. He shows us how not only to tap in the world of the Buddha Dharma, the world of absolute truth, but that this world of absolute truth connects all sentient beings. It embraces all human beings. He understands and becomes one in solidarity with all humanity, right? And this is our value as Jodo Shinshu Buddhists. We value that we are all in the same boat together, okay? And we can be in unity with all of humanity. So with the Nembutsu teaching, we know that we will be together with our loved ones, right? If they pass away in the world of oneness, the world we call the Pure Land. With the Nembutsu teaching, we feel the pain when others are suffering. We can understand that the turbulence and the suffering of this world is not caused by a foreign enemy, right? Rather, it is our egocentricity, the issue of egocentricity and delusion that causes suffering. So no amount of finger pointing, no amount of blaming and fighting with other people is going to end our suffering. Coming to wisdom and compassion is the only way to resolve the issue of suffering. So when it comes to things like crime, theft, or school shootings, through the Nembutsu teaching, we can see that theft is wrong and killing is misguided. And that when we do these things, we inflict so much harm, not just to the people directly involved, but also the people in the periphery, right? The kids in the school, right? The friends of the kids who have passed away. The kids in the district now know about this school, right? This infamous school in which the shooting took place. The kids in the state now know about this place, right? And everybody in this country knows about this place. The families and the extended families are forever scarred by this tragedy, right? And the trauma and the pain is endless when we think about it in this way. Right? This is the pain that we as Buddhists feel, right, when looking at this situation. And finally, with the Nimbut's teaching, we understand that in the face of a pandemic, in an era of unprecedented climate remedies, we are all, again, in this together, right? And if we don't work together, if we don't see that we are all in this together, no one is going to make it, right? And in the teaching of Buddhism, the teaching first expounded to us by Shakyamuni Buddha, right? Everyone has to make it. Everyone must make it, right? Otherwise, no one does, okay? And this is the Bodhisattva ideal. So someone might hear this and say, yeah, well, I understand like things like empathy and compassion. I don't need to be a Buddhist to understand these things, right? But there's a difference between human empathy and compassion versus the Buddha's empathy and compassion. The human empathy and compassion is very limited. And I'll give you an example of why that's the case. We might extend our empathy and compassion easily towards friends and family, the people that we have direct connections to. But it's hard to have empathy and compassion for people who are strangers that we don't have a connection to, right? Whereas the Buddha Dharma does not make such a distinction. The Buddha Dharma encompasses all beings, regardless of who they are. And in fact, the Buddha Dharma does not select the chosen few, right, to be accepted, right? Normally in religion, if you meet a certain condition, then that deity or deities will then accept you, right, and save you. But in Jodo Shinshu, in Buddhism, in Mahayana Buddhism, everyone is accepted, right? They just don't know it yet. So the path to being accepted is to realize that we are being embraced in this world of infinite wisdom and compassion. Again, I repeat, there is no condition that we have to meet, right? In order to be saved, in order to be spiritually liberated. That is a key difference, okay? Key difference between us and many other religions. So the Buddha Dharma will have compassion for all. Buddha even feels the pain and the ignorance of those who act in aggression towards others. Okay? So the Buddha Dharma, let me just be clear here, does not excuse evil behavior. It is not saying that it is okay to act in aggression and hurt and kill others, such as this terrible school shooting. But it is saying that those who act in aggression are ignorant of the truth. They fail to realize that hurting others is hurting the self. How many worldviews do you know will say this? Usually it is the case that religion tells us that everything is black and white and that we should side with the good. We should fight evil and should only stand with the good. Buddhism, however, says that good and evil is not the absolute and the only way to look at this world. Buddhism says that in fact, truth embraces good and evil because both of these things are products of egocentric thinking. So this is why, Buddhism takes a kind of a lukewarm stance on the word justice, on the issue of justice, okay? Because yes, on the one hand, we do need justice, right? The people responsible for heinous acts like this school shooting need to be held accountable. So we understand that. But Buddhism says that the conversation does not stop there, okay? In a religious and a spiritual sense, Buddhism tries to get us to ask, why do we think we are capable of administering justice? What makes us think we are capable of determining what justice is? Who polices the police? What is the standard that we are using to judge good and evil? And are we always consistent with applying this standard to all groups of people in all situations? So Buddhism teaches us that things aren't so simple as they seem. Things aren't so black and white as they seem or that we want them to be. Again, Buddhism is not condoning evil behavior or acts of hurting others. However, it is getting us to realize the limitation of the human concept of justice, empathy, and compassion. Only the Buddha's great wisdom and compassion is limitless. And without the teachings of the Buddha Dharma, we will continue in the cycle of suffering and drown in the ocean of constant struggle. In Buddhism, there is this common example that we use. You know, when you point the finger at people, you say, that person's bad, that person's bad, those people bad, right? And you point the finger at other people, right? And but the whole time, there's one pointing finger at other people, but there's three, right? These three right here that are pointing right back at us, right? And we don't realize that, okay? So for every finger that we point at others, there are three pointing back at us. So what that is saying is that Buddhism says we have to look at ourselves before we look at other people and judge them, right? And in that sense, through that effort, we create this unity, this idea of universal solidarity with all of humanity. That is the Buddhist teaching. Okay? So this world was one of endless turbulence. It will never stop. And the more that we get caught up in it, the more engulfed in this world of suffering we will be. It's like a whirlwind of a tornado, right? That we're constantly in. It's constantly chaotic, right? And nothing is reliable in this world, as Shinran Shonin explains. But not any one political ideology, nor any one social movement is going to bring us lasting peace and happiness. So as I mentioned, you know, in this whirlwind of a tornado, you know, it's chaotic and it's endless. But in every tornado, there's what's called the eye of the tornado, right? Where it's calm, right? It's very calm. And that eye of the tornado in the Jodo Shinshu perspective is the Nembutsu teaching. The Nembutsu gives us this calm and this respite in this world of chaos. Outside of this tornado is nature, is true reality just as it is. It is calm and peaceful as it is. And so the Nembutsu teaching that is in this eye of the tornado is actually the way the world actually is. But what creates this tornado is our egocentricities. And so when we come to this Nembutsu teaching, we come to the understanding that the world actually is a calm and peaceful place that embraces us just as we are. And it is a matter of us coming to that awakening. Okay. And so with that, I would like to end today's message. And I hope that, you know, in the midst of all this, you know, chaos that we see on the news, that is all the more reason why the temple holds a special place in our heart, and that the Nembutsu teaching anchors us in this world of turbulence. Thank you very much. Please join me in Gassho. In explaining Amida Buddha's great aspiration for all beings, Shinran Shonin explains the following, quote, Amida Buddha's aspiration is like the right path, for it leads the multitudes of beings into the capital of wisdom. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu.